There's a story of two men who were out chopping wood. One man worked hard all day, took no breaks, only stopping briefly for lunch. The other chopper took several breaks during the day and a short nap during lunch. At the end of the day, the woodsman who had taken no breaks was quite disturbed to see the other chopper had cut more wood than he had. He said, "I don't understand. Every time I looked around, you were sitting down, yet you cut more wood than I did." His companion asked, "Did you also notice that while I was sitting down, I was sharpening my axe?" We're in an age of multitasking, technology, general abundance, overabundance. We have things to do. We have to be fairly good managers. We need to get a lot done. We need to be efficient. We know how to make lists. We like to check things off. So if we're such hard workers and know how to get a lot accomplished each day, why do we often feel like we're spinning our wheels, getting nothing done? Or when all is said and done and a week or a month or a year goes by, we feel frustrated, empty, yearning for something more. In the field of productivity, planning is the most important part of the formula that's called time management. Reflecting, relating, and serving are the most important parts of the formula we might call life management. These are the qualities and actions that are the sharpening of our axes. We are stewards of the legacy of religious education and faith development. Here, teachers model for our children how to sharpen their axes for honing meaningful lives, nurturing relationships, and having a deep impact on the world. The learning of these skills is called coming of age. It's the process of coming of age. Sometimes it's formal, sometimes it's not. Like faith traditions around the world, the Unitarian Universalists are constantly on a path of coming of age by asking questions, of living answers, of having rituals and celebrations that mark our progress along the way. We do this formally, and that is grand. In between curriculum and festivities, and the rituals, are the daily trials, the daily joys that are actual initiations, along with the heartbreak. A couple more questions for you. How many of you participated in a coming of age ceremony as a child? How many of you have come of age as a Unitarian Universalist? Raise your hand if you have ever come of age. You all should be raising your hand, the waking up, sobering up. Well, and if you slide up the head. There's no typical Unitarian Universalist coming of age program. It depends on each congregation, like everything else. Sometimes there isn't a program at all, and when there is, youth anywhere from age 12 to 18 are asked to commit to a period of time to explore Unitarian Universalist history, identity, values, social justice, leadership, community, usually culminating in a credo, a statement delivered from the pulpit here, in front of the congregation, family, and friends. And in the credo, the youth share their own articulated belief system in about 4 minutes or less. How many of you feel you could do that? It's understandable because the generations are a little bit split. Many of our children are growing up as Unitarian Universalists, and we did not. We'll make sure they have programming and excellent leaders. We may be teachers ourselves. We'll support them, guide them, even mentor them, and then sit with wonder and pride when they take the pulpit and come of age, when they tell us what they believe to be important and true, even for that one day. Well, what about us? What about us adults? What's our articulated statement about coming of age when many of us just started coming? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do I come from? What am I? Where am I going? These are what we call essential wondering questions, meaning they're deeply personal and they take time to answer, if not a lifetime. They take time because they're related to actions that inform them, experience. If we take inventory of our relationships, those we've inherited, and those we've discovered, those we've had to say goodbye to, those that we let go of to stop the pain, we grow. As we grow and heal, we draw on ourselves and bring those near to us who will accept us, cherish us for exactly who we are, but who we want to be. These are the people that we will say we come from. These questions ask of us, who am I? We discover the answer through loving relationships and by loving ourselves, our solitude. We consider the ways that we caretake or bequeath possessions of the soul, like calm, clarity, compassion, sense of connection, curiosity, creativity. Who am I? What makes my heart sing? And when we've tended our relationships with others in healthy proportion, we can do no other than to look outward beyond our circle of comfort and affirmation. Sometimes we're alone when we do this, and often we're with others. We want to do things in community. We bind our love and compassion together and make our way into the world with our stories of healing and insight and wisdom. Wisdom, not necessarily from our successes, but especially from our failures. We touch others, even the other, discovering that they are us after all. We are one. Our faith is a living tradition, which means that we're continually learning, growing, making meaning. And this is why when we say we're a covenantal, not creedal religion, it means that we commit to not going into autopilot. We make promises to each other, to ourselves, and to the world. We are relational by definition. We view the main function of the congregation to be a comfortable religious home to facilitate the spiritual quest of its members. That quest is not to memorize or accept a specific set of beliefs, but to nurture the journey, comfort the pain, craft the experiences, and celebrate the truthful testimony of what we've learned. Trial and error, loss and heartbreak, bearing witness to the tragic beauty of human life. Gauguin's greatest piece of art, created in the grief and despair of losing his daughter, reminds us of what tragic beauty is. Who am I in relationship with, and why does that matter? What brings me peace? How will I live out my faith in the world? These are the fundamental questions of our coming of age program here. And the questions are paraphrased over and over, and they're embedded into the curriculum. All of this is to develop our sense of a disciplined life, of contemplation or spirituality or prayer for sustenance and self-reflection, the ability to be intimate and honest in small groups, and to possess effective leadership for positive change. Isn't this what we want for ourselves? Isn't this what we want for our children? Spirituality, relationship, and purpose in the world. Ours is an unusual religion, for sure, and this is a special congregation. We consider these questions through worship and by singing, by sitting in silence together. We speak aloud our joys and sorrows deep from our hearts. We're devoted to our chalice circles where we explore and share deeply. We go out of our way to spread the fire of our commitments when serving a hot meal to someone who's hungry. We take the shirt off our back for someone who is cold because we can. We do all this and more. But I don't want to be all affirming. I'd like you to feel a little bit on edge, like you're missing something. I'd like you to feel like you might want to get busy and create your own credo. Answer these questions today and tomorrow and next year. They'll change. Write, speak, draw, dance boldly. Just make sure that you try to answer these big questions. And if you can't, ask for help. If you don't feel like you can, go gaze at something beautiful. Start this with yourself, for perhaps like just a moment each day. Don't say, oh, later I'll write, later I'll paint, I'll sing, I'll do that which feeds my soul after I've finished this project, after I've gotten the car fixed, after I work, when I have more space, more time. I'll get to it this afternoon. This is a life of contingency that we often lead. It's really hard in the afternoon to get back and change back to what our first compelling and true feelings were when we awoke to the new day. We might tend to what's important first. We don't actually need to spend much time. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. The rest of the day and all of our chores can actually take on a kind of delight instead of something that's standing in the way. It wasn't that many years ago that I was in interfaith seminary, and as a means of understanding and experiencing the essential qualities of many faith traditions, we are assigned to maintain a different daily spiritual practice for a month at a time. I already considered myself pretty good at tending my spiritual life. I wrote, sometimes. I took walks in the woods, occasionally. I listened to soulful music, often. Yet I admit I was pretty resistant to being assigned this. We had to keep a log and write about it. Isn't spiritual practice personal, private? With an attitude, I started sitting meditation 4 or 5 minutes a day. I would notice my legs shaking a little, my eyes glancing at the clock, and I kept updating my to-do list in my mind. That was day 1. Day 2. Day 3. Eventually, I added a candle. And soon, I forgot to look at the clock. And by the end of the month, I was utterly dependent on this time each morning for a dose of calming, centering, clarifying. And what was most surprising to me was that people in my life noticed. "What's up with you?" they said. "You're not as indignant as you can sometimes be." In those minutes every morning, I found a way to feel peace without any other contingencies. Just me and the flame. And that peace tended my relationships to varying degrees. I began to have more clarity about the pathways of my ministry, how I could give of myself. I felt clear and compelled, whereas before, I often felt confused. And years later, many people closest to me, they know when I've skipped my morning practice, but more importantly, I know it's the time when I breathe, and when I cry, and when I dream. It's when I sharpen my axe. And it's still no more than 20 minutes a day. By now, I've given you over 5 ways to ask the questions that speak to our journey. Repetition can be annoying, but it's actually the means, the spiritual practice that goes deep, that allows us not to forget what's most important. Like the chant that's in our hymnal. Where do we come from? Whose are we? Where are we going? Mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery. Let all of us live into these questions.